It's a fantastic morning when we receive news like this. Sony is finally making a sensible decision. An article has come out informing us that Kraven the Hunter will mark the end of the Sony Spider-Man spin-off universe, putting us out of our misery. However, there's a catch. I'll be exploring all the details shared in this article, expressing my thoughts on it, and reflecting briefly on the Sony universe. I'll save my more comprehensive retrospective for when I rank the films, having seen them all. I'll be seeing Kraven at the end of the week, and I'm just glad to be part of this farewell as we close the chapter on these films. But I can't be the only one celebrating. I want to hear from you. Are you genuinely upset about the conclusion of the Sony Spider-Man spin-off universe? Do you have a standout moment or a favorite scene? Are you holding out any hope for Kraven the Hunter? Because it seems we won't be getting that trilogy some of you were anticipating. Now let's dive into it. This information was shared with us by The Wrap, and the article reveals some intriguing insights I wasn't aware of. For instance, it mentions, while Venom Let There Be Carnage launched in more than 4,000 movie screens in October, Kraven the Hunter will debut this Friday in just 3,000. A stark 25% reduction that's signaling waning confidence in Sony's failed Marvel experiment. Sony is opting to release Kraven the Hunter on a limited number of screens, indicating their belief that it won't perform well at the box office. This expectation was evident when reports suggested that its opening would be even lower than that of Morbius. The director has even reached out to audiences, urging them, "Our film is different from those earlier spin-offs. We hope you'll give it a chance." Given that this movie is rated R and actually treating Kraven like a villain, it may turn out to be better than Morbius and Madam Web. I'll be finding out at the end of the week when I see the movie. But they do mention down the line what the future of this spin-off universe is, where it says, for Sony, the future appears to lie in projects more directly connected to Spider-Man himself. They've developed what they want to develop for now, a top talent agent told The Wrap. It's really about the next Spider-Man film. According to a second Sony insider, the studio is now focusing its efforts on Holland's highly anticipated fourth Spider-Man film, the next installment in the acclaimed Spider-Verse animated film series with Beyond the Spider-Verse, and a Spider-Man noir television series featuring Nicolas Cage, projects that lean into, rather than away from, the web-slinger's central appeal. This means that Sony is going to be taking the Spider-Man IP and realizing maybe they should focus on Spider-Man. And with 3 key projects in the pipeline, you literally have Spider-Man front and center from Tom Holland's Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man noir. Each character brings their own unique story and depth, instead of relying on some random villain that probably didn't deserve their own movie in the first place. However, I did mention there was a bit of a catch with this, and that's basically because Sony is not completely abandoning the Spider-Man spin-off universe. Instead, they are opting to pause its development. This is because they have all these Spider-Man-centered projects to focus on. They're signaling that there will be no new updates on additional spin-offs for the next 3 years. Maybe after the 3 years, there could be a potential sequel to either Kraven or Venom 4. However, I wouldn't hold my breath for this, even with the release of Spider-Man 4 on the horizon. It's not surprising, really. The primary motivation behind Sony's Spider-Man spin-off film stems from a contractual obligation with Marvel, which mandates that they produce a Spider-Man movie every 5 years. If they fail to meet this timeline, they risk losing the rights, reverting them back to Marvel. This is why we saw such a rapid transition from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man to Andrew Garfield's iteration. Sony recognized that this approach to filmmaking wouldn't be sustainable and that they would eventually flood the market with Spider-Man films. So their strategy became to focus on characters within the Spider-Man universe, allowing them to create standalone films. This would provide breathing room between the main Spider-Man releases, enabling them to craft those films into something truly exceptional and enjoyable for audiences. It was quite the intriguing trade-off. This allowed them to avoid rushing into the next major Spider-Man film and starting production immediately. Instead, they could release a Venom or a Morbius, giving themselves an additional 5 years to take it easy. This is also why there's such a gigantic contrast in quality between films like Madam Web or Morbius and the Spider-Man movies. While many have found enjoyment in these films, especially the Venom series, which I personally liked, I could always sense the inconsistencies in character development, storytelling, action scenes, and overall cohesion. However, Morbius and Madam Web took those issues to an entirely different level, rendering them unenjoyable. Now that this universe seems to be ending for the time being, it's so funny to reflect on their attempts, such as introducing Vulture into the Morbius universe, which ultimately led to nothing. God, I sincerely hope Vulture remains part of the MCU, and we might be able to see him for the next Spider-Man installment. They even teased us with the possibility of a Venom and Spider-Man team-up, but never followed through. It even reached a point where Madam Web was deemed unworthy of being included in the Venom universe, as initially planned, and ended up in its own separate pocket universe. There's a long list of reasons, but another major factor in their decision to halt production was that audiences weren't easily deceived. They quickly figured things out. Sure, a Venom film could entertain and maintain interest since Venom remains a beloved character. However, when Morbius failed to resonate with many viewers and Madam Web also underperformed, it put characters like Kraven in a tough spot. This is why Kraven is expected to struggle at the box office with minimal excitement surrounding it. People are saying, "We see what you're doing, Sony. You're not tricking us anymore. Just give us Beyond the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 4, please." So the pause in their universe wasn't solely about disappointing financial returns. It was genuinely starting to impact the Spider-Man brand negatively. With this 3-year break, it will be fascinating to see if they can regroup and create a quality spin-off film. To clarify, they will need to, after the release of Spider-Man 4, regardless of its outcome, they'll have to begin work on Spider-Man 5 and 6 or whatever comes next, and they'll want to take their time with it. And so they're going to look in their treasure chest of Spider-Man IP and go, "El Muerto, it's your time to shine." But hopefully, when the time arrives, they could create more meaningful projects or choose characters that truly deserve a solo film. Like, I think it's crazy that Spider-Man Noir is being developed as a TV series rather than a movie. Given that the animated Spider-Verse film introduced audiences to a variety of characters from the Spider-Man universe, that they would find it logical to select one of them for a standalone film. Personally, I would even be excited to see a Spider-Ham movie. That seems far more fitting than an El Muerto film. But, of course, Sony will do what Sony does. I just can't stop thinking about the possibilities within this universe. Because there was a moment. Remember when Spider-Man was briefly removed from the MCU and was set to join the Kraven Venom Morbius Madam Web universe until they managed to resolve the situation. Thankfully, we still have Spider-Man in the MCU, but we were on the brink of something different. Imagine if those films had actually succeeded. What if Morbius turned out to be a hit, and Madam Web was well received? We could have been gearing up for a Sinister Six multiverse movie, with all these characters gearing up for a reason. But this is where I throw it off to you guys. Sony has decided to hit pause on their Spider-Man spin-off universe. Are you relieved that it's coming to a halt for now? In 3 years, when they shift their focus away from Spider-Man projects and need to revive the franchise, which character do you think they should spotlight next? Be sure to like, subscribe. But as always, I'm Andrew. Take care.